Guten Tag, Teire Bocherim. We're going to be mamshech the inyanim that we spoke today about the shiurim. The kitzur of what we've learned till now was that the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch the two shittas of the Rishonim, shittas Rambam and shittas Tosfos, whether a beitza, whether a kazayis is a little less than a shlish beitza, or a kazayis is be'erech a chotzi beitza. And the Alter Rebbe says by the Raisi you always have to be machmir, and by the Rabbanon one could be mekel. And therefore, Lagabe Pesach, Lagabe Matzah, one has to be machmir, it's a deraisa. When it comes to Morih, Keirech, Afikomen, one could be mekel for a shlish beitza. We also went on to explain at the very end that the Gemara gives two cheshbonos how to measure a revi'is. On the one hand, we know a revi'is is haluk. Every luk has shisha beitzim, which means every revi'is is 1.5 beitza, which means take an egg, the volume that it displaces from with water, you put it into water, whatever it displaces 1.5 times an egg, that's the shear of a revi'is. However, the Gemara gives us another cheshbon as well, how to make a cheshbon by a shetach dike way of figuring out that, which is to make a kois, and the kois has a certain measure, 2 agudlim in the width, 2 agudlim in the length, and 2 agudlim and a half agudl, and another 1/5 of agudl in the height, which is 2 times 2 times 2.7 cubed. That's called cubed. Square is width and length, and times the height, that's cubed. Now, as we spoke, that the Rabbi A.D made a cheshbon and slach, that he took his fingers, and he made a cheshbon that his agudlam is be'erech between 2.4 and 2.5 centimeters. Based on this, he made a kois, and it came out to be almost double the size, that it almost retains in it 3 beitzim instead of 1.5 beitzim. So he comes to a conclusion only lechumra, that niskatnu beitzim, the beitzim became smaller, and therefore we have to figure almost double in beitzim. So this becomes a huge machlekes between the paskim, whether we follow this new mahalach of the Rabbi A.D, or we go according to the old mahalach, which we pashtus in the Rishonim and the paskim and Shulchan Aruch. Say, how do you measure shir chala? How do you measure other shiurim? By putting in beitzim in a pot and see how much water it comes out. So we see, according to those poskim, that we're not saying it's katna beitzim. Bizmanenu, or about 70, 80 years ago, 60 years ago, whatever it was, so there was the big machlekes between Avram Chaim and Noah, which was the Lubavitcher Pesach, and between the Chazanish, the Welt calls it the Chazanish Shir. It's basically really miyusad based on the Rabbi A.D, but he was very much machzik shittas Rabbi A.D. So we'll discuss a little bit now, continuing based on this shiur, on this the shiurim practically for today, for us, for matzah, morer, and revi'is, and so on. Now, we should note that we mentioned before that volume is measured in 2 types of measurements. Today also, those who ever took medicine, I know they get a syringe. The syringe is 5 cc, 10 cc, 30 cc. 30 cc is the same thing as 30 ml. ml means milliliter. A liter is 1,000 milliliters, which is a volume. Like a gallon is a volume, so too is a liter is a certain amount of volume. A milliliter is 1,000th of a liter. That's a volume. You could express the same thing by calling it cc. cc means cubic centimeter. A centimeter times width and the length times the height, which is called centimeter to the power of 3. That's called cubed. To the power of 2, it means square, length and width. Also the height, you get a cube, like an ice cube, like a box. And that is called a centimeter cubed. That's called a cc. Excuse me. So that's called a cc. A cc retains in it the volume of 1 ml. So you could express volume in two ways. Either you call it how many cc's cubed, how many cc's, which is centimeters cubed, or you could say how many milliliters, how many ml do you have. There's around 28, 29, or 29 and a half cc to an ounce. So that is the ratio be'erich. I'm not going to get into details. It's not a math class. But be'erich, it's around that. Some places it's a little more, a little less. It's around 29 ml or cc to 1 ounce. Now let's go over a little bit to another discussion, and then we'll come back to this. Weights and milliliters, weights and volume interchange, but only when it comes to water. For example, if you have 1 ounce, a fluid ounce of water, regular water will also weigh 1 ounce in weight. Now we know we have 16 ounces to a pound, and so that's all weight. It has nothing to do with how big it is or small. If you want to weigh 16 ounces of straw, it's going to take up who knows how much volume, tons. But if you want to weigh 16 ounces in dirt and earth, it will be a very small amount in volume because it's heavy, it's dense. So that's weight. But when it comes to water, they usually, an ounce of a fluid ounce, an ounce in weight is the same. That's when it comes to water. And so too in the metric system. When you say a gram is really a measurement of weight. 1 gram, 2 grams, a kilogram is 1,000 grams. It's a measure of weight. However, 1 gram in water is the same as 1 cc or 1 ml. 29 ml or 29 cc would be be'erich 29 grams. That's when it's in water. Water has a certain density, and in water, the system of weight and the system of volume equal out in many cases. However, when it comes to other things, when it comes to flour, sugar, they're not as dense. There's empty space in between. It's not like water. Yeah. And as we mentioned in the morning shiur, volume is measured the way it is. Unless it has a big bubble, you have to take it out. But otherwise, even a sponge cake, the Alter Rebbe says, you measure it the way it is. So obviously, a sponge cake is way, way lighter than water. If you fill up a size of 1 fluid ounce of water, which is very dense, it takes up every spot, every space, and you fill up in a cup, you fill up sponge cake 1 fluid ounce in volume, of course it will weigh much less. So too is when it comes to matzah. Matzah, of course, has little tiny holes, and if you will be able to compact a piece of matzah the size of a kazayis, or the size, let's say, of a 1 ounce, let's talk about an ounce now, yeah, it will weigh much less than a fluid ounce. It's as fluffy. Yeah. So I looked it up in Svarim. I basically based a lot of what I'm talking today on the sefer called Kazayis Sholem. And he has many diagrams and so on. I based a lot on that, but I also did my own experiments. So over there, I think in sefer Kazayis Sholem, it says that if you weigh, matzah meal, so 31 fluid ounces will weigh a pound, which we know a pound is 16 ounces. So here we see clearly how the weight of water and the weight of matzah meal are completely different. Yeah, we see that by water, 16 fluid ounces will also be a pound in weight, because fluid ounces and weight ounces by water is the same. When it comes to matzah meal, and matzah meal is much more condensed than the matzah the way it is, because it's crushed and it's put together, it falls together closer to water than the way matzah it is by itself. And even then, matzah meal, you could get almost in a fluid ounce. In weight, it'll be almost a half the weight. You will have 31 ounces which is almost double. 32 would be 2 times 16. 31 ounces will weigh 1 pound, which means that by matzah, the weight doesn't go together with the measurements of the fluid ounces. Now let's come back. We spoke this morning that we see clearly from the Alter Rebbe and from all the other poskim that we do not measure kizeisim, kebeitzim, revi'is by weight. We go by volume. In Svardish Svarim and Kaf HaChaim, they do measure by weight, but lav dafke that they believe that the halacha is that it's by weight. It's just very difficult to measure volume. So people make a hashara of be'erech the same or similar, and they go by weight. It's much easier. You want to know how much mutter to give to each person in a Chabad house. You take a scale, you take a Ziploc bag, and you prepare your matzah and your mutter, and you throw in, and when it gets to a certain number, and you will close the bag next. Measuring volume with water is very easy. You have a measuring cup, and you put it in. But when it comes to matzah, how do you measure matzah to be the volume of 1 ounce? How do you measure mutter, squishing it and putting it in, and it should come? It's very difficult. So people figured out through a lot of calculations of be'erech how much weight of mutter would come to the same thing as what it is in volume. But mainly we go by volume. Okay. Now, let's come back to the shittas of Rabbi Chaim Noah and the Noida Yehuda, and let's come back to the practical things of the Revi'is, the Kazayis, and the Kibetza. So, the Gemara says that everything is measured by a Beinoni. Kazayis is Beinoni. A Beitza means a Beitza Beinoni. So, if we want to go strictly by Beitzim, so I have over here written down, they say that in America over here today, we have 5 sizes of Beitzim. We have small, medium, large, extra large, and jumbo. So the medium size would be the large. That's the Beinoni. Now, of course, not all of them are equally the same. So again, that two has an average. So it measures from 2.2 fluid ounces going down to 1.93. So 1.93 would be a drop less than 2 ounces. 2.2 would be a drop more than 2 ounces. There's also a machlikas in the poskim, the Beruda and others, whether we measure a beitza with a clipper or without the clip. Of course, we're not going to get into all the details, rayas from Rishonim, which way we do it. So be'erich, we know now that a beitza, average beitza today, that we have over here in America, is around 2 beitza, which will tell us that a kazayis, according to this, if we go according to the old cheshbonis before the Noida Yehuda, which a kazayis, a lechumra is a half a beitza, and lekula is a little close to a third beitza. So we would know that a kazayis lechumra would be around 1 ounce. 2 ounces is a kibetza. 1 ounce, again, fluid ounces, volume, would be a kazayis for a chotzi beitza. And what would be a revi'is? We said the revi'is haluk, which is 6 beitzim, so every revi'is is 1.5 beitzim. So, therefore, if a revi'is would be, again, ranging between 2.9, almost 3 beitzim, or 3.3, depending in the beitza. As we said, the middle beitza is an average, it's around 2 ounces, 2 fluid ounces, a little drop less or a drop more. So a little bit more than 3 ounces, 3.3 ounces, you would fulfill according to the old measurements of Rabbi Chaim Noah and the old measurements the way it used to be measured. A case of a revi'is would be about 3.3 fluid ounces. That's simple. The Mishnah Berurah, I think in Ochel Shabbos, he makes a pshara between the Noida Yehuda, not a pshara. What he does is the same way the Poskim and the Alter Rebbe says between the machlekas of the Rambam and Tosfos, whether it's a shlish beitza or a chotze beitza. By the Raisa we're machmer, by the Rabbanon we're mekel. He does the same thing. By every Rabbanon we could be mekel to go according to the old cheshbon. By the Raisa we should be machmer like the Noida Yehuda to make it a bigger cheshbon, which is almost double. Yeah. So therefore, by kiddush, he says kiddush is a deraisa. Even though it's interesting, kiddush is ben atayra, but kiddush ala kois is not. So maybe because it's meyusat ala deraisa, so it's machmer more, and by avdala is mekel. Yeah. We find also, anybody who looked at the antique stuff, they see many tzaddikim which they had the becher left from them. The Ruzhiner, the story, there was a becher of the Alter Rebbe, I don't know on that one of the Alter Rebbe, but they say the Ruzhiner's kois from other tzaddikim, they were very small koises. They were 2.9 or maybe 3, not much more. So by Revius, this would be the cheshbon of a Revius. Again, a Revius has nothing to do with the Chotzi Beitza. A Revius has nothing to do with the Chotzi, with the Machlekes of Shlish Beitza and Chotzi Beitza. Revius is clearly a Beitza Mechza, but we have the Machlekes between the regular old measurements and the Noida Behuda's measurement. So is it around 3 ounces, or is it almost double, 5.5 or something, 5 point something ounces? That's the cheshbon of a Revius. We know by Pesach the halacha is like Ketchila, one should drink the entire kois. So the dalat kois is the first kois kiddush. If you want to follow the Mishnah Berurah, it should be more machmir. The rest of the kois is for sure at the Rabbanan. And so therefore, if one cannot drink more and wants to take dafka smaller kois, or kois which has a little bit more than 3 ounces, 3.3, 3.4, you are covered al pi halacha with the shear of a shear revius. When it comes to matzah and tomorrow, it becomes a little bit more complicated, as we're going to see. So when it comes to matzah, because there's 2 shittas, whether it's a shlish beitza or a chotze beitza, machlekes in the Rishonim, and then now to know what the beitza itself is based on the Noida Behuda, or what we call it today, the Chazon Ish B'Mem Chaim Noah, whether a beitza is around 2 ounces or it's almost double. So based on this, we're going to have to figure out now the halacha of matzah. So now, according to Rabbi Chaim Noah, as we mentioned before, a kezayis matzah is around an ounce. A kezayis matzah, because a half a beitza, we're talking lechumra. We're talking lechumra mitzad the machlekes of Tosfos and Rambam, whether it's a shlish beitza or a chotzi beitza. A chotzi beitza is around an ounce, a drop less or a drop more, but it's around an ounce. Let's say 1.1. Let's put it this way, just for to have the average. Okay, so it's around an ounce. If now it comes to Shulchan Aruch, it says that the one who has a seder, who runs the seder, has by Moitzi matzah, he picks up the top matzah and the middle matzah. And some machlekes, which bracha goes on what? The alachilas matzah goes on which one, or the Moitzi goes on which one, and therefore the halacha is lechumra lekitchila, one should eat 2 kezaisim, 1 kezais from the upper matzah, 1 kezais from the middle matzah, and we should eat it together, chew it together, we swallow it together. It shouldn't be a chatzitza between one and the other, a hefsek between one and the other. Yeah. So therefore we eat really 2 kezaisim. However, we should know that women or other people at the Seder, in the Chabad house or so on, who does not have a kaida on his own, and just gets a piece of matzah in a plastic bag, he does not have this chumrah. It's not shaykh for the Baal Habayis to give everybody a full kezayis from both. Elamai is tam eating a kezayis matzah, then the whole chumrah of the oibishte, the interste mittel matzah, doesn't apply over there. He just eats a kezayis matzah to be mekayim the mitzvah sesa deiraisa of be'erev teichlu matzahs. So therefore, he doesn't have this chumrah. But upon him, the one who is the Rosh HaMesubim, when he has the kaida, and he does hold the matzahs like this, like the brach, like it says in Shulchan Aruch, and therefore he wants to eat 2 kezes. So it says from Reb Moshe an interesting chiddush. He says this whole inyan of eating 2 kezes, because the bracha goes on the top one or the middle one, that's all of the Rabbanan. Only Menatayr is the better of Teichel matzahs, you eat a kezayis matzah, no matter which matzah, out of a box. In B'meila, He says that's already only a Rabbanan. On that, you could be Seimach, and each one should be only a Shlish Beitza. Certainly, you could be Seimach on Rabbi from Chaim Noah, on that each one is a Chatzi Beitza, only 1 ounce. And therefore, both together, even if one wants to be Machmir, like the Noda B'Yehuda, by both together, you will have already the Shir of the Noda B'Yehuda Bar Chava. And so the Deraisa, for sure, you'll have, if you have 2 ounces, 2 fluid ounces of matzah, you're Yoitze L'chal Adeyes, and Mitzad Rabbanan, you're Yoitze Sai Mitzad, which is only a Shlish, you could be Yoitze with a Shlish Beitza. Sai, even if you want to have a Chotze Beitza, you surely could be rely on the Shit of Rabbi Chaim Noah Mitzad Rabbanan, like the Mishnah Berurah says, by the Rabbanans were Mekel. And B'meila, both together, so that's what he says. If you take around 2 ounces, then you take around 2 ounces, and then with the Raisa, for sure, you have a big kazayis. And with the Rabbanon, you have 2 kazayis. Yeah? How do we do that practical? Now, let's take it a box of matzah. A box of matzah, b'derech klal, is around 7 to 8 matzahs in a pound. If you have the very thin companies, Montreal or Papatzella, and whatever, they pride themselves as extremely thin matzahs, they make 9 to a pound. But most of them that we know is 8, 7, I even saw some of them very thick ones have 6. Al Kaponim, let's go with the average. Let's go with 8, and you could take your box of matzah and see what it is. So the average is 8 matzahs to a pound. 8 matzahs to a pound, which means 16 ounces, 16 fluid, 16, I'm talking weight now. We're talking now weight, not fluid. We'll come back to the halacha in a minute. We're talking weight. So 16 ounces in weight is a pound. If you have 8 matzahs to a pound, which means every matzah is 2 ounces in weight. Every matzah is 2 ounces in weight, b'derech klal, around that figure. Of course, give and take, because it's only average. You can have one matzah a little thicker, one matzah a little thinner. But on the average, every matzah is around 2 ounces in weight. The cheshbon we made before, that when it comes to matzah in volume, it's way, way lighter than in weight, not like by water. If that's the case, when I have a half a matzah, which is 1 ounce in weight, I have almost 2 ounces in fluid ounces. So I don't want to rely on my own calculations and my own measurements that I did. You know, Kazai, Sefer Kazai, Shalom says it's 31 ounces to a pound, 31 fluid ounces. It's a little bit, not fully double. But so if you take a little bit more than a half a matzah, you for sure, a little bit more than a half a matzah, you for sure have over there 2 fluid ounces. 2 fluid ounces. So now, so that's for the person who's from the Rosh Hashanah. So he takes a little bit more than a quarter matzah from the top one, a little bit more than a quarter matzah than the bottom one. Together you have a little bit more than a half a matzah. With the Raisa, you have now the Noda B'Yehuda Shir, because you have now 2 fluid ounces. It's double than, so even if it's niskat no abetzim, this is double than the regular kazayis. And with the Rabbanon, you have to wait. You have 2 kazayim. You have more than 2 kazayim. It's at shlish beitza, each one is much less. But even with at chotzi beitza, it's you have Rabbi Chaim Noah's shir, which comes out to 1 ounce. 1 ounce means in volume over here is really a half an ounce. So therefore, by having a half a matzah that's in weight, a half a matzah in weight is b'derech klal an ounce in weight, which is 2 ounces in volume, which a quarter matzah already, Hestes is an ounce in volume. So for people who are sitting around the table and not having the 2 matzahs, the top one and the middle one, they just have to be Yotze Kazayas matzah minateda. So if you want to be machmir like the Noda B'Yehuda, so give them as well close to a half a matzah, because they should be machmir if you want to be machmir like the Noda B'Yehuda. But if not, if they're shvacha people that can't eat, have no teeth, or v'chulu v'chulu, so you could be mekel even more than that. When it comes to Keirech and to Dafikoymen, again, there are chumras which you learn on Shulchan Aruch on your own, that by kodesh we want to have as a chumrah to have also a kazayas for we only have now matzah and mutter. We don't have a Pesach. There's an inyan to have another kazayas for the Pesach, or afikoyim the same. Whatever, then you'll look that up. But meikar adin of having by kodesh and by afikoyim one kazayas, one certainly could be makel of a little bit more than a quarter matzah in such a matzah which is 8 to a pound, because a quarter matzah you will sure have a weight of 1 ounce, and a weight of 1 ounce is almost a weight of, again, let me double check it. A matzah is 2 ounces in weight, so half a matzah is 1 ounce, okay, and 1 ounce has almost 2 in volume. So a quarter matzah is 1 ounce in volume, so it has the shear of Rabbi Chaim Noah, and not only a shlish beitz, it has a chotzi beitz according to Rabbi Chaim Noah. And therefore, but with 1 ounce in volume, one could be yotze kodesh and afikoyim. So too, as we said before this morning, the Alter Rebbe says by morer, you could even go by shlish beitz. Certainly, you could follow this Rabbi Chaim Noah shear and have the volume. That I don't know how to tell you. That's a little bit. Everybody will have to figure that out. The Sefer Kazayis Shalom has pictures, actual size pictures of how big the leaves should be, how many pieces you need that he measured, and all the details, which is hard to give over. I have here the Sefer actually. I don't know how it shows on a computer on a picture. It could be that it shows the opposites. So he has over here in the Sefer, and he tells you the amounts. And the way he tells you is like this, that for romaine lettuce, a real big one, from a real big one, he says, let me see, over here, the other page. This is the real big one. A real big one, he says, 1 large leaf is 1 kazayas. When it comes to a medium one, he says, a leaf is only 3/5 of a kazayas. So you need not fully 2, but almost 2. 3/5 of a kazayas. It says if it's a small one, it's 1/5. The small ones, you would need 5 pieces. This is a small one. This is the top one. This is the medium one. Let's see if it works with a camera. This is the medium one, and this is the small one. So he says this is 1/5. From the small one, you would need 5 pieces to get a kazayas. But I didn't check up right now. I have to be honest with you. I didn't have the time. It's hard to prepare for the shear over a microphone. I didn't check up that if he's following now the Mishnah Berurah's cheshbon, that by morer you can't follow a shlish beitza, as opposed to the Alter Rebbe, as we mentioned this morning. The Alter Rebbe says morer is a Rabbanon and the shlish beitza is enough, so it's possible that you can take a little less. Then he also has a picture of the stalks, the bottom one of the stalks, which are much smaller. He says a large stalk is a half a kazayas, and the small one is a quarter of a kazayas. So the stalks have much more body to them, and I guess that's much more volume. So each stalk is a half, and the small one is a quarter. So that's the cheshbon of the kazayas of the matzah and the morer. It's interesting to note that the whole world, which is machmir, and the machmir based on, we call it the Chazanish Shir and so on, that they say that the Chazanish himself was very much makel when it came to a kazayas. The whole machlekes was mainly by a revi'is, because by a revi'is we have a contradiction. That Chazal tell us it's a revi'is aluk, which means it's a beitza mechze in volume. Chazal tell us to measure how to make a cup with the agudlim. And therefore, according to his cheshbon, agudlim are bigger. Now you have a contradiction. I made a cup with bigger agudlim. That's his belief that this is what an agudl is. And it comes out more. So we have to say niskat no abeitzim. So therefore, by revi'is, we have to be machmer. When it comes to a kazayis, the Torah never gave a cheshbon, the Chazal never gave a cheshbon how to make a cup for it, how to give a shetach, to give how many cubed centimeters there is, or how many agudlam. The Torah only said one thing, kazayis. like a zayis in your time. It happens to be, Chazal said that we made a cheshbon from the Yud Ches Geregeres, the Rambam and Tosfos, is it a shlish beitza, or is it a chotzi beitza? That was in those days of the Gemara's time, when a beitza, when a kezayis was a little bit less than a Geregeres. But the Torah never said to measure those days. Chazal said, the Torah gave shiurim that every generation should look at the kezayis beinoni. And therefore, you look today at Zaysim, and the Zaysim Beinim are very, very small. They're like a fifth of an ounce, or in grams, or in as we said before, in cc's and mLs, it's like 17, 18 cc or so on. So therefore, by Zaysim, even though the Beitzim were neskatnu according to their shitta, and when it comes to a Beitzim, and when it comes to a revi'is, there's big chumras. And also then when it comes to tfachim, which has nothing to do with our discussion, it's just based on bigger agudlim, that a tefach is bigger, and a amma is bigger. Therefore the shir mil, according to the Noida B'Yehuda or to the Chazanish, becomes a big kula. The shir mil of 2,000 ammas for Shabbos is a much bigger shir than according to Rabbi Avram Chaim Noah's cheshbon, that a gudel is much smaller, and therefore a tefach is smaller, and an amma is smaller, and therefore 2,000 ammas, so the mill, shir mill is also smaller. But so by these things there's a machlekes, by tfachim ammas, and by revi'is, and by beitz. But they all say that even according to Chazanish, a lot of poskim say that when it comes to a kezayis, you look at the kezayis. So lepoil. So therefore, there's this kula as well. If somebody has a person who is very sick and very shvach, that really a kezayis could even be much less, based on our kezaysim, because Pashat Begashmi is our zaysim are much smaller, and so that is in a little nutshell the cheshbon of what's practical to know for us, to the Seder, for the Vies, and the Kizais. By the way, I want people we should know that even though Rabbi Avram Chaim Noah is a Lubavitcher Pesach, he was extremely makel in this, and he had a lot of discussions and disagreements and machlekes with the Chazanish. Lapoel, the Mishnah Berurah was before the Chazanish. He is also machmer by the Raisa like the Noida B'Yehuda. That's lav dafke mi yusat on the Chazanish. It's already the Noida B'Yehuda, and it's pasuk. And when it comes to the shiurim in Lubavitch, there's also bad some old machlekes and shpashet. And there is an inyan of to be machmer when a person can, especially by the einzigste mitzvah we have of achila today. Men haTorah, we don't have karbanos, we don't have trumas and meiseres like a kohen can eat today because we're all tamei. The only mitzvah we have today by achila is by erev teichlo matzos, by sukkah, which is gzeir shava, tazvav. But by there the mitzvah is be'iket to eat it in sukkah. But the etzem achila itself should be the mitzvah, is the only achilas matzah. So of course there's an inyan of to be machmer. We just went through that when you're going to eat a half a matzah or a little more than a half a matzah, you already accomplished minatayra, even the chumra dikashita, if you have 8 matzahs to a pound. If you have 7 matzahs to a pound, alachas kama v'kama, then you have then your matzah has much more in it. Now, I just want to show you that this I took from Tikkunim Mikvahs from Shalom Ber. So he writes that the Alter Rebbe in Simon Kuf Tzadik in Hilchos Nida, the Alter Rebbe gives a measure for a lagudel. That's how to measure the halachos in Hilchos Nida. We have to measure by agudel as well. The Alter Rebbe says it's zayin se'oires. If you take se'oires, which are barleys, and put 7 of them lined up next to each other, that's the cheshbon the Alter Rebbe makes, that's an agudel, which is almost an inch. It's 0.992124 of an inch. Yeah? And therefore a tefach is almost 4 inches, which is a very big chumri dikishita. It's almost like the Chazanish, if not more. 3.968 is almost 4 inches, is a tefach. In a amma is a 23.81, which is almost 24, which means the Alter Rebbe, we say a tzitzis has to be an amma al amma, which is a size 24, which according to this, based on the Alter Rebbe Hilchos Nida, which also holds this shear of a very chumradik shear. However, in Sheiris Yehuda, which is the Alter Rebbe's brother, the Maril, in Chelik Yeridei and Siman Yidalov, he writes that the Alter Rebbe was chayzer. Later, and the Agudel was not Zayin So'iris, it was Vav So'iris. Based on the Vav So'iris, the Alter Rebbe, the Cheshbon comes out that an Agudel is only 0.85 of an inch, which is, 85% of an inch. And therefore a tefach is less than 3.5 inches, 3.4. Yeah, and an amma there comes out to be 20.4. So really, a size 20 tzitzis is not good enough. It's missing a mashu. But a 22 would be okay according to this shita la'achre chazar. But according to the Rabbi Chaim's Noyes Shir, the way he makes a cheshbon, and he tines that was Lagabe Hilchos Nida or Lagabe Hilchos Mikvayos, which is chumras, it's Iser Kristus, how to measure a saw. When we measure a saw of as we said today, which is a amma alama berum gimel amas memsaw, memsaw for a mikvah, then we have chumras. But according to Rav Chaim Noah, an agudel is 0.78 of an inch, and therefore a tefach is 3.1 inches, and an amma is 18.89, almost 19 inches is an amma. So according to him, a size 20 tzitzis is okay. A bar mitzvah bachar, a young bar mitzvah bachar is not shaykh yet to wear these big sizes. For him, it's okay. A size 20 based on this Rabbi Chaim Noah. Now the Rebbe Rashab also wrote cheshbonis for a mikvah, how to measure. The Rebbe Rashab, we all know in Rostov, he built a mikvah. He wrote many tshuvas about it. So the Rebbe Rashab, so again, there's a machloikis in what the Rebbe Rashab shita is between Rabbi Yankiv Lando, who was the Rav and the Poslik by the Rebbe Rashab, and between Rabbi Chaim Noah. Again, because the Rebbe Rashab uses the lashon a vershak. A vershak is 4.4 centimeters. And the question is, that they have a machlokes between Rabbi Chaim Noah and Yankiv Lando, how many vershaks was an amma? Rabbi Yankiv Lando geteinet that the Rebbe Rashab rechnet 14 vershak to an amma, and Rabbi Chaim Noah teinet it was 12 to an amma. So according to Rabbi Yankiv Lando, an agudel is even bigger than the Alter Rebbe. It's 1 inch, 0.0219. And therefore, an amma, according to this cheshbon, is 24.5 inches, 24.5. Even a 24 isn't good enough, according to Rabbi Yankiv Lando's cheshbon of the Rebbe Rashab's cheshbon, the way he made an amma for a mikveh. However, Rabbi Chaim Noah tainet that it was only 12 vershak to an amma, and therefore, according to him, even according to the Rebbe Rashab, which is machmer, it comes out that an amma is 20.9999, which means an amma is still 21 inches. So a size 20 won't be good. So I'm not going to get into all these details. It's cheshbonis and cheshbonis. We could learn this for weeks. But what I want to show is even though we're Lubavitchers and we follow the Rabbi Chaim Noah b'pashtus, l'chayre is a Lubavitcher posik. But however, we see that within Lubavitch there's also machlekes in the minions, nicht also pashat in Gancz. But maybe by the reise, and especially by erev techlo matzos, there's certainly an inyan to take a full kazayis, l'chalashitas, l'chaladeis. When it didn't come here chaz v'shalom to be maker, we're just coming to say that we made the cheshbonas that the volume is much more than the weight is much more than the volume. So when you have a weight of 1 ounce, you really have almost 2 ounces in fluid ounces, which has already all the chumras of the Noda B'Yehuda. So therefore, we're coming to say that a little bit more than a half a matzah really has minatayra and a libba the Noda B'Yehuda, the side the chotzi zayas shir, and side the Noda B'Yehuda shir, which is double, which has already a half a matzah, has already 2 ounces in volume, which has already covered the Noda B'Yehuda shir. And those in the Rosh HaMsubim, which needs to take 2 kazaysim, because 1 kazay is from the upper one and 1 kazay is from the middle one. So therefore, if he takes a quarter from the top, a quarter from the bottom, the Rabbanon is for sure Yoitza with the quarter matzah, or a little bit more, I would say. Let's be a little bit generous, a little bit more than a quarter matzah for the Rabbanon to be Yoitza for the Kazayas from the top one, the Kazayas from the middle one. And to combined, you have for sure the Neder Yehuda's Shir when it comes to Achilas Matzah. So we have to be careful, because those also the halachas that Afikoymen is not allowed to be eaten as Achille Gasa. It has to be Nechal ala Seva. If you're stuffed with all the Kazayas and Machmas and Merer, and it comes to the Afikoymen, you can't eat anymore. In Bamela, the Chumras goes both ways. But not Tzufel Merer. So if you have that, and then when it comes to Keirech, as we said before, you could be Mekel much less. Afikoymen could be Mekel much less, a little bit more than a quarter matzah, and so on. So the Rebbe should help them, so Bekor Zeichazan, V'noichal Sham, and Azvachim and Apsachim, that we should eat not only the Keirech, shouldn't be only the matzah, and we have the Golas, we have the Morer, but it should be the Psiche that the Rebbe is Pesach, it Iberhip, Ma'alat Tzaras, Bekor Mamish, and also this Machle that we're going through now, alle Yidden sollen sein gesund, stark, bepoil, Meichle, the Asvasa, we machen Rachonis zu Pesach, so wir bringen die ganze Refuah Shleima, and of course, through Meichle, dem Heimanusse, Yidden haben die Amunah Shleima, as the Achane, ki Meitzeis Chameretz and Tzrayim, there the Amunah Shleima Yidden had before, that Vayame in Hu'am, they believe that the Geula is coming any second, bepoil Mamish, was Verau Kalama Yoretz, Kishem Hashem Nikra Lecha, die ganze Welt sieht jetzt, as was, as Yakiru v'yedu kol yesh v'sevel, der keiner kann gar nicht verstehen. Die größten Meluchas auf der Welt geben sich nicht Kanetze. Mit den Jahren, der Rebischter nimmt über. Wir sollen haben die Munah Schleima, man geht da rein, Bekor, Mamisch, die Gula Schleima, hat man sicher sein, der True Mechle, dem Heimenusse, wird man sicher sein, zu Mechle der Asfase, wegen alle Geloim, und wird sicher sein, zu den Neichel Shaman, Azwacham, Absochem, beim Heere, wie Meinu Mamisch. Yasher Kichach.